So today I'm going to read you an article that was in a Swiss newspaper. The article is basically headlined as this: "The laughingstock of Europe." If it wasn't so serious, the situation in Great Britain would almost be comical. The country is being governed by a talking robot named the Maybot that somehow managed to visit the burnt-out tower block in the west of London without speaking to a single survivor or volunteer helper. Negotiations for the country's exit from the EU are due to begin on Monday, but no one has even a plan or a hint of a plan. The government is dependent on a small party that provides a cosy home for climate change deniers and creationists. That's the DUP, by the way. Boris Johnson is Foreign Secretary. What the world has happened to this country? 2 years ago, David Cameron emerged from the parliamentary election as the shining victor. He had secured an absolute majority. As a result, it looked as if the career and cheerful lightweight was headed for a surprisingly dizzy heights. The economy was growing faster than any other industrialised country in the world. Scottish independence and with it the breakup of the United Kingdom had been averted. For the first time since 1992, there was a Conservative majority in the House of Commons. Great Britain saw itself as a universally respected actor on the international stage. This was the starting point. In order to get from this comfortable position to chaos of the present in the shortest possible time, two things were necessary. First, the Conservative right-wingers' obsessive hatred of the EU, and second, Cameron's irresponsibility in putting the whole future of the country on the line with his referendum, just to satisfy a few fanatics in his party. It has become very clear just how extraordinary that bad decision was. The fact that Great Britain has become the laughingstock of Europe is directly linked to its vote for Brexit. The ones who will suffer most will be the British people, who were lied to by the Brexit campaign during the referendum and betrayed and treated like idiots by elements of their press. The shamelessness still knows no bounds. The Daily Express has asked in all seriousness whether the inferno in the tower block was due to cladding having been designed to meet EU standards. It is a simple matter to discover that the answer to this question is no. But by failing to check it, the newspaper has planted the suspicion that the EU might be to blame for this too. As an aside, the country in which parts of the press are so demonstrably uninterested in the truth and exploit a disaster like that of the Grenfell Tower for their own tasteless ends has a very serious problem. Already, prices are rising in the shops. Already, inflation is on the up. Investors are holding back. Economic growth has slowed, and that's just before Brexit. Negotiations have even begun. With an unnecessary general election, Prime Minister Theresa May has already squandered an eighth of the time available for them. How on earth an undertaking as complex as Brexit is supposed to be agreed in the time remaining is a mystery. Great Britain will end up leaving its most important trading partner and will be left weaker in every respect. It would make an economic sense to stay in the single market and the customs union, but that would mean being subject to regulations over which Britain no longer has any say. It would have been better to have stayed in the EU in the first place. So the government now needs to develop a plan on how both it's politically acceptable to bring the fewest possible economic disadvantages. The question of damage limitation, nothing more, yet even now there are still politicians strutting around Westminster smugly trumpeting that it would be that the EU comes off worst if it didn't toe the line. The EU is going to be dealing with a government that has no idea what kind of Brexit it wants, led by an unrealistic politician whose days are numbered, and a party in which old trenches are being opened up again. Moderate Tories are currently hoping to be able to bring about a softer exit. After all, But the hardliners in the party, among them a few who have pig-headedly obstinate ideologies, are already threatening a rebellion. An epic battle lies ahead, and that will only paralyse the government. We'll get onto that later, by the way. EU chief negotiator Michael Brenner has said that he now expects the Brits to fully set out their positions clearly, since he cannot negotiate with himself. The irony of this statement is that it would actually be in Britain's best interest if he did just that. At least they'd have one representative on their side who grasped the scale of the task and who is actually capable of securing a deal that will be fair to both sides. The Brits do not have a single negotiator of this stature in their ranks, and quite apart from the Brexit terms, both the debate and the referendum have proven to be toxic in ways that are now making themselves felt. British society is now more divided than at any time since the English Civil War in the 17th century. The fact that it was demonstrated anew in a general election, in which a good 80% of the voters were cast for the two largest parties. Neither of these parties was offering a centrist programme. The election was a choice between the hard right and the left. The political centre has been abandoned, and this is never a good sign. The country, like Great Britain, that for a long time had a reputation of pragmatism and rationality, it feels grounds for real concern. The situation is getting decidedly out of hand. After the loss of its empire, the United Kingdom sought a new place in the world. It finally found it in a strong and awkward and influential part of a larger union, the EU. Now it has given up its place quite needlessly. The consequences are now becoming clear. It is a veritable identity crisis from which it will take the country a very long time to recover. So that's the hard, unfettered reality. Remember, that's from the Swiss. Hopefully a country we might end up like, but we'll see what happens. But you get to the point where even a country like Switzerland is saying, yeah, you are the laughingstock of Europe, says basically how bad Brexit is going to be. And quite frankly, the article is brutally honest. So, there you go. What do you think to this article?